What's up, kid folks? Back with the Young and Drum podcast. I'm RJ Young. That's Brandon Drumm. Brandon, dude, let's get started with the emojis. Some emojis dropped on Wednesday morning, tweeted by the Lincoln Riley, which signals
Yep.
a commit. You posted a note on the board, and I want to let you take it from there.
Yeah, so I guess we talked about it last Friday
Yeah.
about the potential. Well, it was Thursday or Friday. I can't remember. I put up on the board, hey, look, there's some good news coming. Not sure when Oklahoma's going to put it public. Not sure when all that stuff's going to happen, but rumors started to circulate about there being a commitment. So I hit up some of my sources, and they were able to confirm it to me that, hey, look, Oklahoma did get a commit, 2020 offensive guy. And I laid out the hints on our board who it was, just kind of playing wordplay and stuff like that. So people figured it out. Some people did, some people didn't. I even had people yesterday texting me going, dude, I can't even figure out what you're talking about on the board. And I'm like, it's like, oh well, go read my other post. I gave it in the comments, kind of hinted towards it, and so yeah, you got a really good. I mean, it's going to help Oklahoma's class, and it's in a position where people had questions about that certain that position's recruitment this season. So people were frustrated with that position. Um, I'll just leave it at that. Like it's a position on the offense that people were very frustrated with. And then to top it off, there could be more good news coming around the corner just because of the firing of it's an unfortunate firing because I know Chad Morris obviously. He and I have exchanged text messages throughout this past week. He's a good man, and I feel bad for him, but it could work in Oklahoma's favor with Chandler Morris. I'll be down there this Friday, so we'll have more on that later on.
So, to that end, though, like, because I've also been very clear about Chad Morris is a really great guy, and I think he's a great offensive mind, offensive
He
coordinator,
is.
quarterbacks coach, and
Mm-hmm.
you can do a lot worse than his kid Chandler, who is not only the son of a
A
coach
four
and a
star.
quarterback and 4-star, but Elite 11 invite. He's going to be at the opening final next year in 2020, and he is also passed for 4,000 yards, 46 touchdowns as a junior. He's averaging 318 through the year this year. Probably going to win another state championship with the Highland Park and the Scots. But no, there were a couple of leads that I'm still chasing down. We can talk about it now because we talk shop. Auburn feels like a landing spot just because the offense fits, and you're not sure about what you got going on with Bo Nix, and if you feel like perhaps that's not going to be your guy, and you can get Morris on. But I also thought that this was interesting, and I put this to you, Brandon. I think Chad's going to get an offensive coordinator job if he wants one, right? And I think he gets one with the quickness because, like, for me, it's like
Yeah.
there's been a call for Sonny Cumbie to be fired at TCU. Chad Morris ends up at Texas Christian. That's a really easy, hey, I'm bringing my kid with me. But then you got Doug in
Right.
there and so forth, so on. So what's your read on the package deal that could be Chad Morris and Chandler Morris?
Yeah. So yeah,
Because that would rule Oklahoma out, obviously.
that would rule Oklahoma out. Obviously, I even threw out if you go and you read that art the first when I talked about it. I even threw it the first time I talked about Chandler Morris and the possibility of Oklahoma really pushing for him. I even said, look, Oklahoma they've talked about doing the more support staff and all this stuff. Chad Morris and Lincoln Riley are very close. I talked to Chandler about this. Chandler and Chad, and they're both like, yes, we're very close with Lincoln Riley, and you knew that because when Chandler would come down on his visits, Chad was always with him.
Right.
And coaches, sorry, but Division I coaches usually don't go on big trips with their kids, and most coaches don't allow the fathers, if they're a coach in Division I football, to go on those trips with their kid to another Division I school, just because of the optics of it all, and it just looks weird and stuff like that. But I mean, Lincoln Riley is so close with Chad that it was okay. and he shows up with him over and over and over. So it wouldn't shock me if they said, you know what? Why not just throw Chad Morris into a support role on the offensive side, because they run similar offenses. He's a genius, just like Riley is when it comes to that stuff. Everybody knows it. You look what he did at Clemson, and Clemson's still running that offense. What they run is the basis of what Chad set forth years ago. And when they turned the page and got a lot better at Clemson, was under, on the offensive side, was under Chad Morris's watch. And he did the same thing at Lake Travis. I mean, there is just a lot to like with Chad Morris and the Oklahoma deal. But to your point with TCU, yeah, it makes sense. But why would you? I know there's been rumblings, but why get rid of Sonny Cumbie? Because look what that offense is doing now. It's a freshman at quarterback, and he's getting better and better and better every week. I mean, it wasn't his fault that. Look, you know how much I love Patterson, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of your star guests on your podcast, man.
Yeah, I love Patterson. Yeah. I mean, he's a friend of mine, and the guy. Look, straight up, he sometimes I would tell him this to his face, like I don't agree with his recruitment of quarterbacks sometimes, and he's the one that signs off on it. No, he likes us. A particular guy.
My favorite story about Gary is that Max Duggan is a known commodity out of Council Bluffs, right? We all know about it. Only a few of us went up to see him, and I think most people would tell you that because it's Council Bluffs, Iowa. So when he came down to the opening, we all really wanted to see him throw, and he looked good. And it's like, so how do you end up at TCU? I told him I wanted to come. And you ask Gary, and you're like, how did he end up? He told us he wanted to come. Like, he just he can give a damn. Like, he just doesn't care.
No, he's a defensive guy.
Oh, my God. It's the greatest thing.
And he likes the athletic quarterbacks because it's hard on his defense.
Right, because that's how he's viewing it. So, like, Trayvon Boykin spoke to his soul in that, no, this is
so did Sean Robinson.
Right, because, and then Casey Paul Hall and,
all of them.
I'm missing one. Not Kenny Hill.
The one, Kenny Hill, and then the long name dude that ended up being really good for him, right? In like 2016 and 2017.
But point being, like, he looks at it from the standpoint of we're going to get a good scout team look from our first team quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's always
he does.
That's
but it hurt. On the flip side, it hurts Sonny because he has to really hone these guys into being, mechanically sound, technically sound, in what they're doing as far as their quarterback stuff, and that's not what you want. But when you get a Max Duggan that's already that, and he can run a little bit, look what they're becoming on offense. I mean, yes, it took time because he's a freshman. And I kid you not, so I bumped into a couple people. When you go to these games, you bump into them, blah, 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 people all the time. And I literally was told this from a source at TCU. I asked him before their first game, I said, who's going to be y'all's quarterback? And he turns and looks at me and he goes, the freshman. I said, why? And he goes, well, because he's got a lot of heart and people seem to rally behind him. And you can see that on TCU's team. Like they are. They're not there yet, but they will be in a couple of years, especially if they keep him.
We've said for years that TCU's a quarterback away. I mean, it's a joke now, but the fact that Alex Delton was voted a captain and then left the team, and then Duggan's playing ostensibly hurt, right, and puts on quite a performance against Baylor. Quite honestly, I mean that was a fun game to watch for anybody that did sit there and watch it like me. But
yeah, I did too.
To get back to Morris and to his kiddo, I found it interesting that. Because I went to the University of Tulsa when Gus Malzahn was the offensive coordinator there, and Morris was brought in after Malzahn left in large part because the offense was basically the same, right? It was we're going to run the ball and we're going to stretch the field, and if we have an athletic quarterback, we're going to use that basically triple option look.
Darley.
So, is Darley okay?
Say what?
I said, is Darley okay?
Oh, you could hear. I muted myself.
No, you did not.
Sorry.
Nope, that's in the podcast now. That's staying.
Oh, awesome. No, I'm trying to get my dog. She's like snoring in here. I'm trying to get her out of the room.
I can't hear her, so if I can't hear her, they can't hear her. But
okay, no, that's fine.
No, it's like
I can hear it. I'm like, dude, it sounds so bad in my ear.
Oh my God.
Okay, and I pressed mute, man. That's crazy. Anyways, all right.
So the point that I'm making is like if Morris, and I think you're shading this, came over to Oklahoma as like a senior offensive analyst or something, so that he could spend some time with his kid and collect that buyout money from Arkansas, while OU's not on the hook for any of that. Or I would say no, they're on the hook for whatever it is they would pay him.
But it would have to be like so. In the contract, they always read, and this is what I talked to some people like. He can't make past like $70,000 or $80,000 a year.
Right.
So OU would have to top him up, but it wouldn't matter because he's got all that buyout money coming in. So, I mean, it would work in Oklahoma's favor if they were to go that route. And I do think they're going to go the route of adding, a defensive analyst and an offensive analyst at the end of the year. I do. I just have a funny feeling they're going to start to really look into doing because Riley's been pushing this, and they've told him.
You don't have a funny feeling, Brandon. The only person that talks to more people over there than me is you. All right, so like
so he's been pushing this for a while, like he has, and that was one of the deals when he re-upped his contract was, hey, I want more support staff, and they started to get him a little bit more quality control stuff. Now the analyst part, because he wants to get caught up with the Michigans, the Alabamas. Even the Texases of the world that have all the recruiting support, all that type of stuff.
At one point, Texas had 2 former head coaches as analysts. Now, Beatty is a different deal altogether, but at one point it was going to be Beatty and Fedora as analysts over at Texas, and I was going, man, what would that look like if Lincoln had an opportunity to do that at OU? But also, let me throw this in here. Let me throw this as a caveat to this entire conversation. Would Chandler want to come here knowing that Brock Vandegrift is behind him and Rattler and Mordecai are in front of him? I think that's worth talking about because
that's a good question.
He can go play right away at a Sun Belt team, but he's going to have to work really, really hard at a Power 5 program where his dad isn't the head coach to win that job. I mean, like, if nothing else, John Stephen didn't look good. And for those folks that don't know, John Stephen Jones, Jerry Jones' grandson, Stephen Jones' son, went from Highland Park, where he was a starter before Morris, to Arkansas. And he's played a little bit, but he hasn't looked great out there, man. So it's not as if, like, they're just turning out.
But he was a freshman, wasn't he?
Yeah, but I'm saying.
No, I was sophomore. Yeah, redshirt freshman.
Freshman. My point is, this is not Rattler. This is not Vandegrift. That's what I'm saying. Like, you're gonna take some time.
Levels, yeah. Obviously, different levels of play. Chandler, for people that don't know, is a good. He's on the small side. Like when you see him in
5'10", 175.
Yeah. He's 5'10". He's all of 5'10" people. Like I mean, he looks it. He's very. His frame is very thin. But if you see Chad, you see that he's got the capability because Chad's built the same way, just older. Obviously, they look like twins, and he is not going to be built as thick as Kyler, and he's not going to be able to move as well as Kyler, but he can move. Don't get that twisted. The kid can move. He's a smart kid, and he's very accurate. So that's what he uses is his accuracy, and the way he can move inside the pocket it's pretty unbelievable actually. But yeah, between Rattler, Vandegrift, that's what I want to find out. Like, I'm going down there to talk to some people. I just got my credential today, so it'll be good. Man, it took a long time to get that credential. I hounded them like 20 different times through emails. They're just very slow to react to those things. And I talked to a bunch of people. Like, in Frisco's even worse. If you work for like 247 or Rivals or somebody like that, you don't get credentialed at all in Frisco ISD. Only newspapers and radio and TV. No joke. So that it took a while to get credentialed. I can't wait to go down there and find out. Literally, because I want to know, like, where is their head at? Because A&M's a team that's been brought up.
Yeah.
TCU and Auburn.
But I mean, they just had Haynes. Like, Haynes is committed there.
Yeah.
Like, that's the other part of this that's interesting. One, the reason we're talking about Chandler Morris as a 2020 prospect that is in play for Oklahoma is because he is the only uncommitted quarterback prospect with an offer from Oklahoma. That's the first domino. The second one
the only one that Oklahoma really wanted.
No, Bryce Young.
Okay. But I mean, realistically,
but Bryce, you know how this works, quarterback recruiting. You recruit one guy. You recruit
Right.
one guy. Now, he saw
Bryce
Chandler a
fell
lot.
off in the summer, and then
Right.
they started pushing for Chandler really, really hard.
Well, I don't know that they pushed for him really, really hard because you and I were both saying that there's no chatter. And I think
Well,
that they
when I say
spoke.
they pushed, they recruited him. They brought him in on several visits and stuff like that. And he was really the only
But
guy they were going after.
you and I
He was
have
going to
no
Arkansas the whole time, though.
you and I have no paper trail other than to say, hey, we checked in. He's probably going to play with his dad. Like that was as far as we go. So I don't want to make it sound like the Jalen Hurts thing or like that you were shading, but I just
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Basically, to deal with Bryce, they really pushed hard, and they tried to flip him several times, and he kept saying, "Yeah, I'm thinking about decommitting from USC and blah." And OU got kind of
because you and I were working that really hard, especially when Kingsbury left.
Yeah, and he just didn't. It just never. I don't know what it was. I think it was more or less the second they got Rattler.
Yeah.
And then
100%.
the second they heard Vandergriff was going, because that Vandergriff stuff started this past summer. Like, not this past summer, but the past
winter.
When he got offered
Right.
in January or December or whenever it was, I can't remember. But
January.
Yeah, it everybody knew right then and there that that's probably where Vandergriff was going, because I put my crystal ball in like in February or March. I can't remember, but that was literally where you thought, okay, the second when you talked to his family, it's Oklahoma. It was Oklahoma, and that was it with Vandergriff, and that I think scared Bryce Young away. But the weird part is that he's going to a school that has Tagovailoa. It's got who else is there already?
Mac Jones.
Mac Jones, and but who'd they get in 2019?
Yeah, his little brother.
Tagovailoa. So they're set there for. I mean, it's just weird how the quarterback recruitment in the 2020 has played out all across the board. And you might as well just add Chandler Morris to the thing, because nobody expected. I guess to start the season, you didn't think Chad Morris was going to get fired, and then when he did, you knew Chandler was not going to go there. And from that point on, it's just kind of, how is this going to play out?
Let's take a break and pick it up with some more recruiting, as we haven't yet got to the eyeballs that were dropped in a real way. Well, yeah, I guess we have. Let's
talk about the start.
Yeah, let's talk about Baylor and Oklahoma. Let's talk about the game on the field. All right, let me take a break.